Relationships are hard. They just are. When they're really, really worth it, especially, it takes effort. It takes work. It takes teamwork. In this episode, we're going to talk about the 3 key components to having a healthy, loving interpersonal relationship, meaning a romantic partner, a family member, and also we're going to talk about how to treat yourself when you're in a relationship with yourself. These 3 things really matter too. So get cozy or be safe on that drive and listen up. This episode is brought to you by ABL Life Coaching, transition coaching that focuses on your needs while you get through changes in your life. Visit ablifecoaching.com to schedule your free first session. Welcome to the Needy and Normal podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After hours of coaching and learning from my own life, one thing is clear: meeting your needs is essential for a better life. Here, we'll talk about your needs and not only learn to accept them, but also tend to them without guilt. Let's get needy. So as I'm recording this, I'm sitting by the window at my office dresser and it's starting to feel like fall. It's October 1st. I'm feeling all ooey gooey today because it's starting to feel like fall, and it's my son's birthday, our firstborn. We became parents 10 years ago today. It feels really weird, but it's also amazing, and it's a great time to reflect. My husband and I have been together for over 20 years. As you know, if you've been listening, thank you. And we've been through quite a lot. And so the lessons that I want to review or teach today are ones I've learned myself, not just in the, I know what it takes, but in the implementing, right? And really proving to myself that these things matter. So I'm going to go over these 3 key components to a healthy, loving relationship with a romantic partner or family member or yourself. That's what this is referring to. But of course, if you're in a very loving friendship, this definitely applies. I'm also going to add 2 extra components to the end of this, and we're going to talk through how to communicate these things too, not just show them or know that you need them, but to say them in words. And to practice saying them in words and to practice meaning them. Now, we're going to dive into this, but let me also mention there are lots of really valuable things to put into a relationship to show effort and make sure it's healthy and successful and able to stand the test of time and able to move through challenges. But these are a really good starting point. Or if you're having a tough time with your relationship right now, this is a really good checkpoint. These 3, and will end up being 5 things, will be a really good thing for you to check in with yourself and say, am I receiving these things from my relationship? Am I giving these things in this relationship? Because you probably already know this, a relationship is not one-sided. It really, truly takes both of you. You will be tested. You will go through things together. And to stand the test of time, to find peace within your relationship, to really, truly be compatible, these things matter. Okay, so let's go. Let's get into it. Number 1. Love. Duh, I know. It seems obvious. Love. Love is that intense feeling of deep affection. And we need it. We all need it. It's important. Unfortunately, love is not enough, but it is essential. So if you're in a loving partnership, if you're in a loving relationship with a family member, with yourself, you do have to have love. And again, this is a checkpoint for, am I receiving love, as in, am I feeling love? Am I giving love, as in, am I showing love? Am I making sure that my actions and my words are expressing love? So there's your first checkpoint. Number 2
is respect. Respect. You may not always agree with everything the other person says, and you know what? That's okay. But that doesn't mean you don't show respect. That doesn't mean if they disagree with something you are saying that they don't show respect. For your relationship to hang in there, this is really, really important, especially when you're in an argument. When you're fighting and you're having a really hard time getting to a happy, smooth place, if you show each other respect, not only does it allow for there to be a two-way conversation, but it also gets to the end faster. It's really interesting how when people fight and they're having conflict, it gets drawn out over and over and over again because the level of respect is usually taking a hit. It's usually pretty low. It's being stubborn and thinking what I say is right, what they say is wrong. And being wrong and being right, that's not the end game. Most of the time in a relationship, it's finding common ground and figuring out how to solve a problem together. I heard this great explanation of an argument. Probably in this case, it was an example of a couple, married couple or, romantic relationship. And they described the fight as a knot, like when you tie the knot in your shoes. And each person has a handle of either side of the knot. And when you pull and pull and pull, you make the knot tighter. And instead, you're supposed to come together and figure out how to untie the knot together as a team. And that takes respect. And that also takes this next piece, the third component, which is compassion. Compassion. It's having empathy or sympathy and responding to that empathy or that sympathy. Showing concern. Showing understanding, even if it's so difficult. I know. So boom, there they are. Love, respect, compassion. Also, going back to love, do you know that the opposite of love is hatred, right? So if you aren't showing love, you aren't expressing love, you aren't feeling love, you aren't receiving love, the opposite of that is hatred. Does that work in a relationship? No. Love, respect, compassion. Those are three very, very solid and essential pillars of having a successful and healthy relationship. And this goes along with the fact that it takes work. These things just don't show up. You may have an understanding of them, but you have to actually put them into practice. So we'll put these into words. Let's say, and this is a very real situation, let's say that the wife is at home, whether she got off work or she's been home all day, she's tired, she's home, she's trying to get life going for the rest of the evening, especially if there's kiddos, and the husband comes home and he's had a bad day. He's had a really, really hard day. Something at work didn't go right. Manager or boss was frustrated with them. Something just was off and it was not a good day. So he comes home, he's tired, he's drained, he's feeling overwhelmed. He's just not in a great mood. So as a partner, recognizing something's off is really helpful. And pausing before throwing something at the partner walking in the door saying, you need to clean this, you need to cook that, I need you to do that, blah, 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 blah. I get it, because we do need each other in a relationship. Being partners and being a team is very hands-on sometimes, but assessing the situation and being able to verbalize the situation. Hi, honey, I've had a really hard day. Okay, so she has the information. Now she can verbalize love by actually saying the words, oh, honey, I love you. Immediately showing compassion by saying, oh, I'm sorry. I understand you've had a tough day. And then respect to finish it off by saying, I will respect whatever you need right now. Okay? So right there, even if you've got a whole bunch of things happening in your brain, for the sake of the relationship, take a beat. Unless there's like some crazy emergency or something that really does trump a bad day, just take a beat, take a breath. You can avoid a lot of conflict this way and use those words. I love you. I understand you've had a hard day. I respect whatever you need, or whatever you need to do, go ahead. It doesn't have to be those exact words, but you understand the concept. You're showing those three very important components right there in a small amount of words. Do you know how disarming that can be for the partner coming into the room? Oh my gosh. And it goes the other way too. Say they walk in the room and you're the one who's had a shit day and you just can't contain yourself anymore and you're about to cry. This has happened to me before. Jeff's walked in and I'm just like, I can't anymore. Just please take over. It's true. And really, and for me, words of affirmation is one of my love languages. We could have a whole episode on that, on love languages. He could come in and say, oh, honey, I love you. I can tell you're having a hard time. What do you need? Whatever you need to do, you do what you got to do. That's showing me love, compassion, and respect. Boom, instantly. And I feel instantly, oh my gosh, I feel loved. I feel cared for. I feel supported. And then you put all those things actually into action. And that's a scenario. It doesn't have to be that exact setup, but that's a scenario of words and using them in words. You can use that all over the place at any given time. Love, compassion, respect. And truly in any order. But if those three components are part of a challenging moment, you're going to be okay. The easier it is for you to do those and express those, the better it's going to be too. So what do? How do we get better at stuff like that? Well, you practice. I bet you're already thinking of something that has happened where using these three things could actually have made it so much better, right? Okay, so the bonus components, there is intimacy and trust, and there's all kinds of other pieces that really truly make a relationship very successful. But these are foundational pieces. Then you can build on it from there, especially if you're in it for the long run. If you're married or if you plan to stay with someone for a very long time, or this is family. Family is forever. You would hope, right? Hopefully you're not in a situation where you've had a really hard time with a family member and you're not talking. Maybe these are the three components that will bring you back together. And let's not forget self. We forget about the most important relationship, which is the one you have with you, the one you have with yourself. And if you love yourself, give yourself what you need, show yourself compassion, show yourself respect, you'd feel better. So if you're having a hard time with those three things for yourself, this is a really good reminder, right? This is your reminder to check in and see how you're doing with those three components for yourself. Am I respecting myself lately? Am I showing myself love? And how is my compassion for me? Think about this right now. If you're driving somewhere, or you're having a meal, or you're getting into bed, I often listen to podcasts a lot when I'm brushing my teeth and getting ready for bed. And so whatever you're doing right now, check in on how this is going for your own relationship with you. Now this carries beautifully into the last two components that I am a big, big fan of, and you may already know this. One is boundaries. Boundaries. Respect and boundaries go together. They're friends. If you ask me, they're buddies. Pretty sure. So if you go back to the scenario of the husband comes home, and the wife is really needing him to do this, that, and the other, but it's not an emergency and it's, he's had a bad day. It's obvious, right? If you say the words, oh, I see, you've had a hard day. I understand, whatever you need. You can add boundaries. If that conversation turns into a frustration verbally from the other side because we're having a hard day, and even if the wife is, or your partner's being understanding, you might get lippy, right? You might get a little agitated and, I just had a hard day. Just give me a minute, right? So boundaries come into play because you can ask for those anytime. Boundaries are always available to you. And basic boundaries, I've mentioned this in the boundaries episode, go back and check it out, is what's okay, what's not okay, what's comfortable with you, what's not comfortable with you, right? So if you've said those words, I love you, I respect you, I'm being compassionate, if you've done those three things and then you're getting some nastiness, that's a hard no. That's a no thank you. And here you can put that into words that sound a little bit like this. I realize that you're at capacity and you're having a hard time, but I will not allow you to be unkind to me because you've had a hard day. And you can even make a request at that point. Hey, why don't you just go take a minute, take a deep breath, have a little quiet, whatever you need, and then come back and we'll have some dinner, or we can have a conversation, whatever it is. So you can invite the next step in action. Okay, come back to me when you're feeling a little bit better. But you do not have to accept that. Same goes from the husband walking in the room saying, I've had a hard day. And if the wife goes, I really need you, da, 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 da. And I swear to you, if this has played out in our life lots of times, he is more than welcome to say, whoa, honey, listen, I need to take a beat. I am not able to take in more information right now. My husband did this to me last night, actually. He was getting into bed. It was like 9 o'clock and he was just done. His day was heavy and busy and he was just done. And I wanted to chit chat, which I always do. But he was very clear. I love you, babe. I'm done. I don't want to talk anymore. And that's when respect comes in on my end. And I say, oh, shit, I really want to talk about all the things. I wanted to tell you everything. Fine. Okay. I love you. I respect that you need some quiet. I understand you're done, right? You use those three components. And the last piece comes in. So I said there was 2 bonus ones, boundaries and using them, and acceptance. So in that moment, that example I just gave you, and he says, I need some quiet, I'm done. I have to accept that. And it's okay. It's a way to manage expectations instead of being stubborn, which we can be so stubborn in relationships, right? We want to get our last word in. We want to do the thing we want to do. We want to say the thing we want to say. We want it to go our way sometimes. I get it. But part of showing your relationship respect is by accepting things when you cannot change them, right? You can control what you can control and let the rest go. So it's a great example in that moment. He says, sorry, I just don't have anything left. I need quiet and I want to go to bed. I might be fuming with things in my brain, but if I don't accept what he needs and I don't respect what he needs, I risk harming the relationship. I risk causing a conflict, causing a fight, and late at night, causing exhaustion when we need to go to bed so we're ready for the day. And there's a lot going on in our lives. There's a lot going on in your life. You know how this goes. I've talked about this before. Don't start a fight at night. Just don't. I don't recommend it. I did it for years. Again, this is one of those things I've had to learn. And I'm really proud of my husband. We've been through a lot of lessons as a couple, you know, getting together 18 and 21 years old and being together for so long, we've really had to learn these things. But what I notice is when we use these things, these components in our relationship, when we show each other love, respect, compassion, acceptance, and boundaries, when those play a role, everything is better and more at peace. And overall, if you can come to a peaceful place with accepting that those are the things a relationship needs, you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. If for some reason those 5 things are not available to you in some way, if there are pieces that need to be worked on, give it some effort, give it some attention, look into it, get curious, see if there's something to be done. And if there are pieces that just don't seem to turn around and get better, like respect, for example, and respecting boundaries, for example, love is wonderful, but it isn't enough. If you're in a relationship where you don't feel respected, you don't feel accepted, you don't feel loved, you don't feel like the other person has compassion for you and you're having a hard time, if those things aren't there, if they're missing, this is a very, very big indicator that the relationship needs some work. And if the work doesn't make it better, then maybe the relationship is not for you. Now, don't forget to take these components into your own relationship with yourself. That really, really matters. So please, go into your day, your week, your month, your year with all the love, compassion, respect, acceptance, and boundaries you need. Your needs matter because you matter. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Needy and Normal podcast. If you liked this episode, share it generously. I would so appreciate it if you would take a quick moment to leave me a review and click that subscribe button so you won't miss an episode. For information about coaching together, visit ablifecoaching.com.